Good afternoon and welcome. Oh, yeah. Once again, good afternoon. And welcome to the Commissioner for Historical and Architectural Preservation. I call this meeting to order at 1:06 p.m. Today's date is April 11th, 2023. What I'd like to first do is this. Introduce myself. My name is Harry Spikes. I am the chairman for the commission, and as of right now, I'd like to allow the rest of the commission to introduce themselves from my left.
Eric Holcomb, Executive Director.
Good afternoon, John Bullock, City Council Representative to CHAP.
Garrett Power, Baltimore City Historical Society.
Catherine Good, Commissioner.
Sarah Langmead, Commissioner.
Kapal Lynn, Commissioner.
Myra Mendeleev, Commissioner.
Peter Morrill, Commissioner.
Nicole Battle, Commissioner.
Ann Powell, Commissioner representing Greater Baltimore Committee.
Tamara Woods, Commissioner representing DHCD.
CHAP staff, please.
Eddie Leon.
Okay, thank you. Welcome to all who are in attendance with us today. The mission of CHAP is to enhance and promote the cultural and economy of Baltimore through the preservation of buildings, structures, sites, and neighborhoods that have aesthetic, historic, and architectural value. The goal of CHAP includes preserving historical architecture and monuments, reclaiming broken neighborhoods, preventing demolition by neglect, and integrating our city's past into its future. So we have a few housekeeping rules for those of you who are in attendance. Outside, there is an agenda. For those of you who have not received the agenda, please feel free to get it. Outside, there was a sheet that looked like this. If you wanted to testify, you just write your name down and you're allowed to testify in public setting. Now, here's the thing. We do 3 minutes per person. If you hit over 3 minutes, I'm gonna let you know, but this is the warning sign I give. At 2:30, which is 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I do this. Please look at me every time when you turn and address, so that you know that it's time to wrap it up. Then after that, we will then have others come up and testify. We go through the entire list. If you have not signed, please go back outside to the attendant if you do want to speak. Other than that, thank you all for coming who's in attendance. Before I continue, I'd like to make a motion to waive the reading of the minutes. I have a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Are there corrections or additions to the minutes? Okay.
The link isn't active. They
Okay.
said you meant we aren't gonna do them
Okay,
because of last week.
that's right. And I would like to make a motion to adapt the minutes, even though we have our technical issues. So we can't.
We can't approve
Right. So want to share with that, since we cannot approve them, so for record, let us have known that we cannot make a motion to approve the minutes. Okay? Due process and review procedures. CHAP reviews applications in conjunction with the building permit process of the permits section of the Department of Housing and Community Development. If a building permit application is filed prior to historic design review, the application is placed on hold, pending completion of the CHAP review process. The review process is completed by issuing an authorization to proceed. The historic design review process is in addition to other applicable laws and regulations and does not diminish the force of urban renewal, plans, building codes, zone codes, etc. It is the applicant's responsibility to comply with all applicable laws, regulations, and codes. Proposed projects are reviewed prior to issuing a building permit. Applicants must comply with the Baltimore City Historic Preservation Design Guidelines in planning and executing their projects. Design review considers the proposed work, taking into consideration the historical and architectural character of the structure and of the immediate area. Applicants will need to clearly explain how their project complies with the design guidelines. Minor projects. In order to expedite the application process, the Commission has delegated review authority to the Executive Director for cases involving minor work. Minor project must significantly change the overall appearance or remove the significant undamaged historic fabric. All minor work must clearly meet the design guidelines. Major projects. Major projects may change the overall character, appearance, and integrity of the structure. Substantial building alterations, demolitions, additions, and new constructions are considered major projects and are reviewed at a public hearing. Interested parties should request a pre-development meeting in the planning department to begin the review process. An electronic version of all materials must be submitted to the CHAP staff at least 25 calendar days prior to the public hearing. If the application is complete, the project shall be scheduled for a public hearing. CHAP hearings. At the public hearing, CHAP staff presents recommendations to the commission regarding the project. Following the staff presentation, the applicant may make a presentation to the commission. Interested parties, including neighborhood associations, have the opportunity to provide public testimony. Following testimony, the commission renders a decision on the application at the public hearing. Persons aggrieved by the decision of the commission may seek judicial and appellate review in accordance with the Baltimore City Code. After an authorization to proceed is issued, the applicant may obtain a building permit. The commission process is impartial, and staff comments are evidence that assist the commission in rendering decisions. One last thing I'd like to share. For those of you who would like to give public testimony, make sure you say your first and last name fully. And if I do mispronounce your name, please, I do apologize. And then, of course, say your name for the record so we have it on record. Okay. I would like to ask for the motion to approve the final agenda. Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Let us begin. For our consent agenda, we have a few items. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, sir. Thank you. First on our regular agenda, we have the Frederick Douglass High School, 2301 Gwynn Falls Parkway, Baltimore City, landmark. The request is a demolition hearing, a demolished stair tower, smokehouse, and 1950s wing and 1980s corridor. The applicant is F. Thomas Lee, Sam Sama, who's the architect, and our staff who will be presenting for us today is Lauren.
Getting settled, settling in for a lot of talking. Thank you for your patience, commissioners. This is a general location of the property, located here just south of Gwynns Falls Parkway, just south of Mandalman Mall. This is the parcel outlined in red. It's a 29-acre lot located on the south side of Gwynns Falls Parkway. It's bound to the east by North Pulaski Street, to the south by Windsor Avenue and the Robert Coleman Elementary School, and to the west by Warwick Avenue. And the campus of Coppin State University is located just west across Warwick. The three-story brick school building is designed in a collegiate Gothic revival style that was popular in the early 20th century for the construction of academic institutions at the high school and university levels. The building inspired the architecture of another city school, Western High School, Eastern High School, on 33rd Street, which is almost a twin of this building. The entrance to the building faces north towards Gwynns Falls Parkway. The school has an irregular H plan, and a central tower in the middle of the H marks the main entrance, the historic main entrance to the school building, which is not utilized as the main entrance today. This is an aerial view of the school from the east, and this is the current student entrance to the building. This is a view from the south. and a view from the west. The building has a richness of architectural detail, much of it rendered with architectural terracotta such as belt courses, drip mold window crowns, lintels, arched entranceways, coining, and bas-relief panels. There's also patterned brickwork, ornamental buttresses, and a multitude of windows in a variety of styles, ranging from large, ornately tracery Gothic arch windows, as you can see here, to paired windows, faux arch windows, etc. This is a 1951 Sanborn Fire and Insurance map, but it shows what the building looked like in 1927 because it hadn't been altered at that point. However, there have been some additions to the building on the east and west elevations, which you can see here. So two that were built in the 1950s and one that was built in the 1980s. Douglas High School was designated as a Baltimore City landmark in 2013, and since its designation, CHAP staff has reviewed and approved a few applications for the property, including removal and replacement of rooftop wireless antenna, site improvements such as new baseball fields, and installation of HVAC systems for individual classrooms. The applicant proposes to demolish a stair tower, smokestack, 1950s wing, and 1980s corridor of Frederick Douglass High School as part of a larger renovation project that is in the early design phase. Staff applied sections 3.6 demolition procedures of the Baltimore City Historic Preservation Rules and Regs, specifically demolition hearing 1, determination of architectural significance, which is outlined here. The property is significant for its association with two historic and groundbreaking city schools and for its architecture. The Collegiate Gothic Revival Style School was designed by prominent Baltimore architect Joseph Evans Sperry for Western High School in 1926 to 1927. Western High School is the oldest existing public high school for girls in the United States, established in 1844. The building was turned over to Frederick Douglass High School in 1954, right after the Brown v. Board of Ed decision, and has served Douglass since for close to 70 years. Frederick Douglass High School was the first high school established for Black students in Baltimore City and in the state of Maryland, and will be celebrating its 140th anniversary this year. The building has played an important role in the histories of both Western and Douglass High School, as well as the desegregation of Baltimore City schools. The architecture of the school is also significant as an excellent example of collegiate Gothic revival. The stair tower and smokestack that are proposed for demolition are original to the 1927 school building. And you can see the smokestack on the left and that stair tower circled on the right. The two-story brick addition on the southwest corner of the building was built in 1954-1955 to serve the students of Douglass High School, who moved into the building in 1954 to alleviate the overcrowding that Douglass students had been suffering from their previous school building in Sandtown, Winchester. This addition was one of two one addition of two additions built contemporaneously to serve the students of Douglass High School. The other addition is located at the southeast corner of the building abutting the gymnasium. And the cornerstone of that addition was set into place by Mayor D'Alessandro. And the fact that two additions were necessary upon moving into this much larger building really speaks to the number of students attending Douglass at that time. It was such a significant school. In 1983, a one-story brick corridor with additional entrances was constructed on the east elevation of the school attached to the auditorium. The CHAP landmark designation report notes the additions and stating that there have been some additions to the building on the east and west elevations of the building that are architecturally sympathetic to the original architecture of the building. And these additions that I've reviewed here were not identified as non-contributing to the designation, which is thus why we're here today. Based on the architecture and history of the building and its additions, CHAP staff believes that the original stair tower and smokestack and 1950s addition meet the following criteria for designation. Criterion 1, for its association with events that have made a significant contribution to the broad patterns of Baltimore history, and Criterion 3, for embodying the distinctive characteristics of a type, period, or method of construction, or that represent the work of a master, or that possess high artistic value, or that represents a significant and distinguishable entity whose components may lack individual distinction. The 1983 addition on the eastern elevation of the auditorium is neither associated with the broad pattern of history nor is architecturally notable in its own right, and thus staff finds that this addition is eligible for demolition under Demolition Hearing 1. This property is a Baltimore City landmark and thus does not have a neighborhood architectural review committee, and we've not received any comments regarding this proposal. But I do know that the team is planning to, is doing robust engagement regarding the project as a whole. The staff has reviewed the architecture and history of the building and determined that the original stair tower and smokestack and 1950s addition continue to meet criteria 1 and 3 of the Commission's criteria for designating districts and landmarks. Staff finds that the 1983 addition does not meet either any of the criteria for designation and thus is eligible for demolition. And thus, staff recommends that the stair tower, smokestack, and 1950s addition are contributing to the historic designation with a finding of disapproval of demolition of those features, and that the 1980s addition does not contribute, and demolition of that addition may be approved. Thank you, Commissioners. Any questions?
Lauren, thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Lauren? Okay, Lauren, thank you.
Okay.
We would like to ask if the architect would like to come up and speak. Please state your full name for the record. Thank you.
My name is Amy McCarty with Samaha Associates. So looking at Frederick Douglass High School, we're starting the early design process for a complete renovation of the school and also the co-location of Frederick Douglass with Joseph Briscoe Academy. So part of the demolition that we're looking for is how that pieces those two schools together. The ROTC wing that was built in the 1950s has a lot of ADA concerns and issues, and that's primarily where we're putting the Joseph Briscoe School. So we're really looking at how we can make that portion of the building accessible for those students, particularly with a special needs program that they have. And then the smokestack, we are looking into, we have a structural engineer that's actually going out there today to look at the smokestack and kind of view its structural integrity. One of his concerns with that is that because of when it was built, it's an unreinforced masonry structure and probably is not up to current seismic codes. So if there was like an earthquake in the area, that could potentially be a hazard with that portion of the building. With the stair tower, we are looking again with ADA issues. The 1927 gym portion of the building has several levels of the building, and the 1950s addition that was added back there has 3 or 4 additional levels. So again, we're trying to look at ADA access and how we can best accommodate everyone in the school. So that stair tower, we're looking at replacing that with kind of a gym lobby elevator stair that connects all those existing levels of the building. So.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Hold on one second. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the architect? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
We will now open up for discussion amongst our commissioners. Is there any commissioner that would like to give any statement, comment, et cetera? Before I do that, I want to say this. We do not have anyone here for public testimony, so I want to just let everyone know we don't have that, so open it up for the commissioners. Go right ahead. Yes.
Thank you. Lauren, I think that when you were talking about the 1950s edition and about the significance in how it related to the African-American communities coming into the school and taking it over as part of the community, and just that the fact that it was an addition, how that reflects the pure number of students that there were at the time. But I think architecturally, when I look at the addition, it reads very much as an addition. I mean, it's sort of a nicely built trailer in a sense. Besides having the same brick material as the rest of the building, it doesn't share any of the architectural features of the main building. And then you look at the massing and the way that the height is. Could we go back to an image that shows them? So I could definitely see an argument for saying that this portion of the building does not have the historic significance of the rest of the building. And then when it comes to the smokestack, it is certainly, I mean, it's an original feature, I see that. And it's certainly very prominent in the neighborhood. I don't know how the neighborhood feels about it as a landmark. But since this is a school building and not a factory, I think that seeing a smokestack is not necessarily something that you have that as just strong identity and historic association with. And I would be comfortable approving the demolition of the 4 pieces that are being proposed.
Okay.
I'm also concerned with the smokestack. It certainly is a prominent visual feature. And contributes to the way we see the school.
Right.
But it's an anachronism. It was a functional item, and the function is no longer there. And we hear there is at least some concern from an engineering point of view as to its stability. What do we think as a commission about whether or not this sort of a package is something we want to historically preserve? I guess I would share the notion that I do not think it would be a loss to the historical fabric of the city to take down the smokestack.
If I could just reply and explain the process. So, demolition hearing 1 considers, architectural and historical significance. Demolition hearing 2 takes in consideration issues such as, structural integrity, et cetera. The applicant was also invited to submit, information about if there was severe structural, issues with these portions of the building that would potentially render them not significant anymore. We didn't receive that. So certainly those concerns regarding potential structural integrity, issues with ADA, all the concerns that the applicant raised are absolutely fine concerns, and that can be discussed at hearing 2 should the commission determine that these features still retain their historical and/or architectural significance. I don't know if that helps clarify.
Yeah, I was going to ask, I'll make sure my mic's on. Laura, can you share with us just if this was part of the application? It's my understanding that some of the first Black architects from Morgan State University were part of building this building, if I'm correct. And so, as far as the tower is concerned, I guess it's also a question for the architect: is there a way that it can be preserved and that history having some historical significance?
I don't. In my research on the building, I didn't find anything about regarding the African-American architects at Morgan working on the building, but that's certainly something that we can look into and could be, a potential reason for its significance. But we don't have that record.
Okay.
I don't know, I'm not going to speak on the structural integrity of the smokestack, but I would like to say we have plenty of tall, unreinforced masonry stacks and towers that abound, including the shot tower, right? I mean, unreinforced masonry construction was a legitimate thing until it wasn't. So I mean, I think, I don't think that.
I agree.
That was all.
Yes.
So while I agree with Commissioner Longmead that the addition is not architecturally significant, the fact that it was purpose-built to combine this school and bring it in a desegregation decision. We determined that many sites can be historical even if the architecture isn't the most thrilling thing ever. And so while I understand some of the other concerns, I think that would be the biggest sticking point to me is preserving that. That said, I I agree with staff's decision. And if there are further concerns about structural issues that come up during evaluation, that information just isn't available right now, but could be brought up later if there is an issue like that for the smokestack. But yeah, Baltimore has plenty of unreinforced masonry ones, and they've all survived a few earthquakes. So yeah, I would definitely be interested in seeing more backup information for that argument. Initially, I'm not too concerned about that.
I just wanted to comment on the addition where the floor elevations don't quite match and there's some ADA issues. So historically, this operated as a school. It still continuously is operating as a school, and accessibility is something that's important for the ongoing, because again, the fact that it's continuing to operate as a school is a nod to the historical significance of it. And so whether it's architecturally significant or not, I do think the accessibility for the students is an important thing to factor as far as the importance of retaining it.
Thank you. Peter?
Yeah, I just am kind of in agreement with what everyone said. I don't think this addition is particularly significant under criterion 1, but under 3, I think you could make a pretty good case for it. And I would maybe like to see if perhaps staff could look into some of the records on who the architect was, a little bit more in the background in the building, if that addition would be useful. But from everything I've seen here, I agree with the staff recommendation that it's all a package and contributes to the significance of the building as a whole. I'm not totally wed to the smokestack and stuff, so I think at a demo hearing too, if a convincing argument for why it should not be kept can be made, I would be willing to entertain that. But I think for these purposes, I would agree with staff's recommendation.
Peter, thank you. Is there anyone else? Yeah. Okay.
I just wanted to speak quickly to the varying floor levels. I just think I would like to see an exploration of alternatives to be able to address that prior to just saying, let's take it down. That's the best way to do it. I think there are a lot of ways that differences in levels can be handled, and those need to be explored before you just say, let's get rid of it. That's my opinion.
Thank you. Oh, Tim, by all means.
No, I had a similar thought, and it was really more of a question related to the stair tower. Mm-hmm. And so the applicant mentioned that would be where a future elevator would go. And so my question was really about that elevator and how much accessibility would that bring in terms of the amount of floor area? Is it only particular to that section, or is it really getting to your point, is going to provide access to even more of the building? So if we're talking accessibility is needed in, multiple areas because they can't get it in one other area, or are those just options that really that stair tower or that new elevator core will provide a little bit more access and you don't need necessarily another piece? So I too am interested to see how the alternatives are, what was actually explored, to see how these, proposals are actually going to function.
Well, and we've discussed before about permitting, the idea of permitting demolition when we don't necessarily know what is going to be put back. And certainly if we move in the direction of staff approval, if it's a matter, my understanding at least, if it's a matter of, maybe just the stair tower, that is something that could be considered again at a future application. It wouldn't have to go through a separate demolition hearing because at that point it would be a fairly minor demolition. Is my understanding correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Are there any other commissioners who'd like to share? Okay, Tyree, can you send us back to the screen? The recommendation screen, yeah, thanks. Commissioners, the recommendation, staff recommends a determination that the original stair tower smokehouse, a 1950s addition, are contributing to the historic designation and a finding of disapproval of the demolition of these features. The 1980s addition does not contribute and demolition of the addition may be approved. The motion is on the floor. Do I have anyone who'd like to favor that motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do I have any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Did you get Sarah's one opposed?
Oh, sir, I didn't see. I apologize. Forgive me.
What do you say when it's opposed? You don't say aye, you say nay?
Nay.
So, let's go back in time. Do I have any opposed? There we go. Any others? Okay,
And who did the second? Who seconded it?
Gary.
Okay, thank you.
okay.
And if,
Yes, sir,
if I
Peter.
could just ask again, you know, if there's any way staff could look into some more history on the addition so we can consider that for hearing two, that would be great.
Sounds good. Thank you, Peter. Lauren, thank you. Okay. Next on our agenda, and we're doing very good on time, Upton Mansion, 811 West Lamville Street, Baltimore City. Landmark, the request, a concept review, construction, and new tower, new two-story rear addition. The owner is the mayor and city council, and the applicant is Mimi. Mimi, please forgive me for pronouncing your last name wrong. Thank you all, Jaguar. Thank you. The staff is Lauren.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
This is Commissioner Dennis. I need to recuse myself from this item.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman.
Lauren, I'm sorry, Lauren, go right ahead. I'm
That's
sorry,
okay.
go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman,
Yeah.
Commission. Upton Mansion is a circa 1838 brick Greek Revival mansion located on the south side of West Landvale Street. Sited at the top of a hill on a 1-acre lot, the house served as the country house of David Stewart, who was a prominent Baltimore attorney and politician. This is a closer view, and this is an aerial view of the property. This is an aerial view from the north. The property is surrounded by a stone retaining wall on the east, west, and south sides of the property that range, and the retaining wall ranges from 9 feet to 14 feet tall. The character of the neighborhood in the immediate vicinity is residential with 3-story Italianate brick row houses. Immediately west of the Upton Mansion property is the stone Gothic Revival Church that now serves the congregation of New Antioch Holiness Apostolic Church of Jesus Christ, the roof peak of which is several stories taller than the mansion. And we're gonna take a little aerial walk around. This is a view from the east, from the south, and from the west. This is a current site plan, and you can see it's really helpful in sort of understanding the topography of the parcel. Since it has a lot of trees, it's very difficult to see just how steeply the property itself slopes, certainly at the southern portion of the lot, but then also at the northern portion. Oh, and that is, apologies. This is the only view of the entirety of the front of the property that you can see, because it is such a large lot taking up almost the entirety of the parcel. The north side of the property facing West Landvale Street has a low concrete wall topped with a decorative G-Krug wrought iron fence and a taller chain link fence. There's a vehicular entrance to the property flanked by 2 stone columns and adjacent pedestrian entrance. And you can see here that it's a little hard to see, but the topography at the front of the house, front of the property rises sharply in a steep slope that levels off in front of the mansion. And you can see here at the southeast corner of the property on Upton Street, goes to the right, and an unnamed alley to the left. This is the stone retaining wall that surrounds three sides of the property. This is the only view of the rear of the property that is visible in the middle of an alley. Because of the height of the stone wall and the presence of three-story row houses around the property, you really can't see the rear of the property, which historically was sort of also functioned as a facade as it looked down towards the harbor of Baltimore City. But because the city has grown up around it, it is not visible anymore. As you can, case in point, this is the 1869 Saxe and Company's bird's eye view of the city of Baltimore, again showing that south elevation of the property with a two-story porch. Interestingly, the houses on the north side of West Landvale Street, they are all still there, just as built. The level of detail is just phenomenal. This is a 1890 Sanborn Fire Insurance map that shows the mansion house. It shows the carriage house. It shows a greenhouse that was once on the property, and it shows those stone retaining walls. Interestingly, this 1897 topographical survey map shows beautiful landscaping on the property. The carriage house is missing, but it definitely was there. Maps aren't always accurate. That's why we look at a lot of them. But it just, is interesting to sort of see some of the landscaping that was there over time. This is a Historic American Building Survey photograph from 1936. When it served as a radio station, that little picket fence in the left foreground actually surrounded the huge radio tower, another one of which was on the other side of the property that you can see there behind the house. The wires ran over the property. And this was the porch, two-story porch on the rear of the property, on the rear of the building. Today, you can we're now going to take a walk around the building as well. The paved drive curves up towards the western side of the mansion adjacent to the carriage house, and the topography of the property rises sharply up in a steep slope. Just inside the entrance gate, you can see the retaining wall and staircase that allows for pedestrian access to the main entrance of the mansion house. The land around the mansion house itself is generally level and planted with several large trees, as you can see here. The entrance facade of the mansion faces north towards Landvale Street. The south facade is oriented towards downtown Baltimore City. The house is 2.5 stories tall and an elevated basement, 3 bays wide, 2 bays deep, with a central passage plan. A 1-story portico had sheltered the entrance, and this was demolished by Habco on an emergency basis in 2015. This portico is mirrored on the south elevation. The main entrance is accessed by a flight of marble steps. The first floor windows and the front stairs historically had a cast iron railings that featured a rose and thistle motif that was derived from the Stewart family crest. Those have actually been preserved off-site and will be reinstalled. And the building is capped with a classical entablature and a parapet which obscures the low-hipped roof. This is another view. Upton is a significant and outstanding example of a Greek Revival country house surviving within the city limits of Baltimore. It's a rare survivor. Although the building has been subjected to numerous changes in the 20th century, it has retained substantial integrity. Some of those uses included a private home, a radio station, a music school, and then later part of the Baltimore City school system. And here you can see the 1-story carriage house that is contemporary with the mansion. You can see there's a 2-story service wing, 1 bay wide, 1 room deep, added to the west elevation in the late 19th century. The south facade features it had featured a 2-story porch that was replaced by the brick stair tower. The portico is attached to that stair tower. as you can see here. And the most significant alteration to the property occurred in the late 1950s when the stair tower was installed, replacing that two-story porch. And then also, there's a lot of site work that was completed and a lot of alterations to the building itself. And yet, in spite of that, a tremendous amount of detail is retained on the interior, which is not this commission's purview, but boy, it's amazing how much is still retained. You can see here with this view looking west, you can see the rear of the mansion house, and to the, I guess it'd be to your left in this image is where the proposed addition is going to be located. The rear portion of the property is largely paved for parking. And the edges of the property adjacent to the retaining wall are characterized by steep slopes covered with trees and shrubs. And this is a view from the front yard, right at that steep slope down to the sidewalk. This property is owned by mayor and city council. The property became vacant once it ceased serving as a school in 2006, so it's been vacant for almost 20 years. The property was transferred to DHCD and around 2006, and it was designated as a Baltimore City landmark in 2008. As I mentioned before, the front portico was removed as an emergency condition by HABCO in 2015. DHCD later undertook interior and exterior repairs in 2019, both on the mansion house and the carriage house. Staff approved that work, that exterior work. The property has been offered for sale through the request for proposal RFP process more than once, and both planning and CHAP staff served on that review panel. The property was awarded by DHCD to Afro Charities in 2020, and the property will be redeveloped as the offices and archives of the Afro-American newspaper and the offices of Afro Charities, and the sale is slated to finalize in the next few months. CHAP and planning staff have held 2 pre-development meetings regarding this property, one in April 2021 and more recently in March of 2023. At this hearing, the commission is only reviewing the proposed addition to Upton Mansion. Staff has reviewed the proposal for the exterior rehabilitation, finds that the proposed scope of work meets the design guidelines, and will be reviewed at staff level. And the site work for the project, including paving, stormwater management, forest conservation, will be included in a future submission for CHAP review and approval. Also, projects like this are very complex and difficult and financially taxing. So just a little bit more background. The project was awarded a state bond bill, which is prompting the Maryland Historical Trust to take a perpetual easement on the property, which is inclusive of the buildings as well as the property as a whole, the landscape. The project has also been awarded the state competitive commercial tax credit, which is administered by MHT, and the addition has been reviewed and approved at a schematic level by MHT, and the project is in the review process for the federal historic tax credits. I just think it's helpful to, this is a really significant project, and it is, I think, getting the funding that it deserves. The proposal before the commission today is the construction of a sizable 2-story contemporary addition on the rear of the mansion, and that also includes construction of accessible entrances to the mansion house and carriage house. This is a site plan showing the proposed addition footprint in black, so you can see. I mean, this is a tough site, in terms of the site constrictions, and as I said, the programmatic plans for this site. For this property, there are very distinct programmatic needs. Oh, sorry, let me go back. The proposed 2-story addition is rectilinear with a flat roof and is attached to the mansion house via the 1950s stair tower with a 3-story hyphen. This hyphen is going to serve as the main entrance to the building and connect the 4 floors, the basement, first, second, and third floors of the mansion house to the addition. The floor plate of the addition provides a slightly larger square footage per floor than the existing mansion house. The architect can correct me on that if I'm wrong. That was my back of the envelope estimate. And the addition is ever so slightly wider than the mansion house itself. However, due to the existing conditions of the site, neither the overall size nor the width of the addition will be very noticeable from Landvale Street. It's a sensitively sited addition. This is a site plan for the basement. Again, for accessibility issues, it's not possible really to put an elevator into the mansion house itself, and so there's going to be a stair tower and elevator that will be only in the basement portion of the addition. The first floor of the addition will house the archives for the Afro-American newspaper. This shows windows. It will not have windows because that is an issue for the preservation of the resources in the archives. But you can see that there will be as well the stairs and the accessibility ramp leading to that hyphen between the mansion and the addition that will serve as the primary entrance for the mansion house and addition as a whole. On the second floor, there will be a conference room, kitchen, gallery room in the addition, and the addition will feature a curtain wall on the rear elevation. And then the rooftop of the addition will feature a green roof as well as a rooftop deck, and the elevator and stair tower will rise to be on that elevation as well. So again, full accessibility. You can see here on this section sort of the functionality of the spaces, how the elevator and stair tower will access all 4 levels of the mansion house. Also, as part of this, the rear dormer the rear roof line of the mansion house will be extended over the hyphen, again, to provide access to that stair tower and elevator tower. You can see this is the proposed west elevation, which shows the hyphen between the historic mansion to the left and the addition to the rear. The first floor of the addition is going to have rain screens sort of serving as faux windows. So they give the appearance of windows, sort of break up that massing and provide some of that visual fenestration. And this is the east elevation. Again, you can see the sort of glassy hyphen and the addition with the curtain walls on the second floor sort of curving around the corner, as well as the rooftop deck and the stair and elevator tower on that rooftop. This is the north elevation, so you can see it just slightly projects out. But again, because of the topography, because of the setback, because of just the sheer size of the property on the street, you're really not going to see much of the building at all. This is a south elevation, which will have a blank first floor and basement level. Again, dealing with the topography, it's going to have a pretty high basement level here. And then a curtain wall on the second floor. And again, as staff previously noted, this is not really going to be visible from anywhere. It's going to be very, very difficult to see. However, it is going to have a beautiful view of downtown Baltimore City from that second floor and from that rooftop. These are just some renderings of the proposal. You can see here, that portion of the rear addition will be visible, but it won't be highly visible. And again, and these are some aerials of the proposed rendering. So application of guidelines. Okay, let me get to that page. The proposed addition, staff finds that the proposed rear addition meets the alterations and additions guidelines. It's compatible with the existing building in massing, height, form, and scale due to its location on the rear of the building as well as its design. While additions are typically smaller than the existing building, the floor plate of the addition is really due to the programmatic needs of the contract purchaser. The architect has designed the addition to be visually subservient to the mansion, and due to the topography and surrounding built environment, only a portion of the addition will be highly visible from the street. The addition is contemporary and is connected to the historic structure by a 3-story hyphen, which does not significantly alter the historic structure. For guiding principles for new design, staff finds that the proposed addition is a contemporary architectural design. It doesn't replicate historic styles. And staff finds that the addition is compatible with the historic mansion due to its massing, the use of the hyphen to connect to the mansion, and the cladding, which is evocative of the brick of the mansion, but is clearly a modern material. It's called terraclad. It's a terracotta tiling system. And so staff finds that the addition complies with this guideline. For site design, staff finds that the proposal largely meets the guideline. The addition is located on the rear of the building, which retains the existing setbacks in the property. The proposal doesn't comply with the third bullet, which is regarding retaining the historic primary entrances. But the primary entrance for the proposed primary entrance for the building is proposed to be at the hyphen of the between the mansion house and the addition instead of the existing historic facade. However, the use of the hyphen as the primary entrance allows for full accessibility to the building, which would not be feasible from the historic front entrance, and thus staff finds that this is appropriate as well. For scale and form, staff finds that the proposal overall meets the guideline. The addition is proportional to the mansion in terms of floor-to-floor heights. The west and east elevations have fenestration patterns that complement the spacing of the fenestration of the mansion house, with windows topped with rain screens on the second floor and the installation of window-sized rain screens on the first floor, which sort of visually serve as faux windows. The south elevation features a curtain wall on the second floor. The roof of the addition is flat. And while it doesn't replicate the low-sloped roof line of the mansion, it is compatible and helps this addition be visually subservient. The roof line of the hyphen continues the low-sloped hip roof of the 1950s stair tower addition, which is also appropriate. And then the hipped roof of the hyphen intersects with a taller, flat roof third-story addition and elevator of the third floor stair and elevator tower on the addition. And staff recommends that the applicants explore how to make that intersection a little more seamless, perhaps by adjusting the roof line of the stair tower roof. The addition, like the mansion house, sits on a tall foundation. Unlike the mansion house, which has windows at the basement level, the addition will not have any functional space at the basement level and thus no need for fenestration. But this results in a high blank wall at the base of the addition, which staff hopes will be softened by landscaping, which will be included in a future submission. Staff finds that the windows of the addition will be a metal curtain wall system located on the second floor of the addition and on the first and second floors of the hyphen. The windows that are closest to the mansion house will have muntins and glazing arranged in a pattern that is evocative of the double hung windows on the mansion, and the remainder will be a contemporary large plate glass system. The doors in the hyphen will be a storefront system, and staff finds that this modern treatment is appropriate. The applicant proposes to use a terracotta panel system to clad the exterior of the addition. The product offers a few variations, and the applicant proposes to use a few types of the paneling to create visual interest on the elevations. The foundation of the addition is concrete, which is compatible, but staff recommends that the applicants choose a finish and color that is compatible with the mansion house. The proposed metal curtain wall windows will have a light gray finish. And staff finds that these contemporary materials are appropriate for this addition. Staff also reviewed the roof decks. And staff finds that the proposal meets the guidelines for the roof deck. The proposed roof deck will be located on the roof of the addition, set back on the northwest and east elevations. The concept materials submitted for the railings are all metal with simple balusters. While the roof deck is accessed from a rooftop addition, which generally would not meet the design guideline, in this case, the addition is the elevator and stair tower that provides access to all floors of the mansion house in addition and is intrinsic to the functionality of the building as a whole and providing accessibility. Staff also reviewed for archaeological resources, and Dr. Adam Fracchia at the University of Maryland completed a Phase 1 and Phase 2 archaeological survey of the property in April 2021. The survey recovered over 3,000 historic artifacts that spanned the full period of habitation, but they were discovered in highly disturbed soils. And so the report concludes that based on the lack of significant intact features beyond demolition debris and fill layers and the presence of mainly yard scatter, we do not recommend any further archaeological testing. Areas that are currently covered by paving are not slated to be impacted or will have minimal impact, and archaeological monitoring during site excavation could be undertaken if these areas will be impacted by deeper excavation. CHAP staff archaeologist, myself, concurs with the findings of this report, and staff recommends the requirement of archaeological monitoring in the proposed areas of excavation that were not tested due to the presence of paving, such as the proposed accessibility ramp that will wrap the rear and a portion of the east elevation of the carriage house. The applicant also has not submitted site plans for stormwater management, utilities, paving, and once those plans are submitted, staff will review them for further subsurface disturbance in currently paved areas and recommend archaeological monitoring, which would then result in the submission of an additional report documenting those findings. Again, this is a Baltimore City landmark, and so there's no architectural review committee. However, neighborhood associations and adjacent architectural review committees were advised on this proposal. Staff's analysis is that the proposed addition on the rear of the Upton Mansion has a sizable footprint to meet the programmatic needs of the contract purchaser. The height and rectilinear design of the addition, along with the use of the hyphen, pulls the massing away from the mansion. The overall effect is an addition that is subservient to the historic mansion. The contemporary design of the addition is compatible with the historic mansion, utilizing a modern terracotta cladding system that is evocative of brick. Staff finds that the proposal for the two-story rear addition meets CHAP guidelines, while there are a few details that could be adjusted to better comply with the design guidelines. Staff recommends approval of the new rear addition with final details to be reviewed and approved at staff level. And staff also recommends that the commission require archaeological monitoring of excavation in areas that are currently paved, which will result in the submission of an additional archaeological report documenting those findings. Thank you, Commission. Any questions?
Thank you, Lauren. Any questions for Lauren? Go right ahead.
Clarification, Lauren.
Yes.
I believe you mentioned when you were talking that the roof deck railing would be set back from the facades, but in the renderings, it looks like it's all the way at the edge. Can you clarify?
Yeah, there are some inconsistencies between the renderings and the plans.
Okay, but it will be set back.
Staff is working off of the submitted plans, yes,
Okay.
which show that they will be stepped back, which I believe is required by code.
Gotcha. Go right ahead.
So you all have, staff has been working with the submitted plans and
Yes.
the owners and the developers?
Yes.
Over what period of time?
Staff held a pre-development meeting with the applicant in April 2021, and then we had an additional pre-development meeting in March of this year.
Okay. Thanks.
Go ahead, Nicole.
What color is the terracotta?
It is terracotta colored. I understand that there is a variability in the proposed product, but it is, and they offer a bunch of colors. But my understanding is that, and you can see it a little bit here, that there is some variation in the color. And you can see here a little bit that main largest photo there, sort of I believe, shows the terracotta color scheme that they're proposing to go with. I'm sorry, I don't have the material.
Yeah, there is,
Yeah, I didn't put it in there. In the submission
what page is
package, they do circle the specific proposed product.
But the
Color.
is not currently part of what we're reviewing today because this is for massing.
Right. Yep, that would be a final detail that staff is recommending to be approved at staff level.
Gotcha. I'm just looking at the time, so I just want to make sure that any other commissioners I'd like to ask Lauren any questions.
I just have a suggestion.
Go right ahead.
You mentioned at the beginning something concerns about the height of the elevator tower.
Mm-hmm.
And those are usually, the height of the elevator tower is usually determined by whatever the required overrun is over the elevator.
Right.
But it could be that by considering a
Sorry, I'm trying to-
white-colored
Mhm.
material for the third floor, just
Yep.
that top elevator poke
Yeah.
out, that it'll become more one with the
Mhm.
sort of cornice design of the original building, and then from the ground level, it will disappear. It'll be less visually obtrusive up top, so. That's just a suggestion, not necessarily to be part of the
I
recommendation.
gotcha. Okay. What we want to do next, any other questions for Lauren? Lauren, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
The architect is here. We want to give them their 3 minutes to speak. Is the architect here? Okay.
I'll get to it. First, let me thank the commissioners and the staff for the recommendation. On behalf of the development team, we do find the recommendation to be favorable, and Lauren has done an excellent job. And working with the Can you hear me now? Working with the development team on this. And so I will just share briefly a couple of things about the project that the development team's very excited about. This year
Dale,
marks the 180.
You need to introduce yourself.
Oh, I am so sorry. Dale Green, for the record.
Everybody.
Partner,
Everybody knows Dr.
architectural
Green.
firm,
Right.
Salt and Campbell and Britton Associates. But this marks the 185th year of the Upton Mansion. And so we're very excited to have prepared a design concept that provides an opportunity for the 130-year-old Afro and its Afro Charities to find an official home back in the neighborhood where it was birthed. And so we're very pleased that the design concept has come to fruition and that a building that has been vacant for nearly 2 decades is able to have the appropriate and sensitive new life breathed back into it. So we look forward to continuing to work with CHAP as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure. Dr. Green, we have just one question.
Yes. Whose question? Oh, Ann, yes.
I'm very confused. Could we go to like a section on the slide? Maybe a side elevation? Maybe it would be good. Yeah, that one, back one.
Is that good? Do you want
Yeah.
a larger one, or is that?
This is fine. So I'm looking at the floor to floors, which seem to be 11 feet. And then that has the floor levels coming in at the window heads. And then, in this elevation, there's about 1 foot of section for roof assembly, water drainage, and all of that. And so I don't feel like that feels authentic to the building. Like, I feel like that the windows are probably not at the ceiling level. And definitely that the ceiling would not be below the window, which is what this floor line suggests. And so I feel like the 11-foot floor to floors feel off. And that would translate then into the addition in a pretty impactful way, meaning that the overall addition would be at least a foot higher on every floor. And that there's not really a relationship in proportion between the addition and the original house, or mansion. So I think that as this translates out, we find that there is not really that the mass may really need to significantly change. And so I plan on talking about that with the commissioners in this, massing conversation that we're having. And I thought before doing that, maybe you could tell me what you know about how well verified the section is relative to this line drawing.
Yeah, so what I do know that I can tell you is that we have several different drawings, I think that Lauren had alluded to, and some of them are not as reconciled. We will certainly look at that a little further because the mansion and the annex itself, the respective floor lines, beginning with the lower level, going to the ground floor, and also going up to that second floor, we have negotiated those floor plates to ensure that they are level. And
Which
so-
they, yeah.
Yeah, so
Which I would assume would be the objective. But the drawings consistently show this, 11-foot floor to floor, which doesn't feel right relative to the exterior fenestration placement.
I hear you, Ann. I'll look into that. It's an inconsistency that we can resolve.
And then my other question is, well, it's about materials, so I don't think we should talk about it now.
Peter, go right ahead, Peter.
I had a material question too. Is there a local example of the TerraCast that we can look at? I went on the manufacturer's website and saw some around, but just asking if you're aware
Yeah,
of
so
one.
one of the latest buildings that was erected in the Northwood Commons actually uses that TerraClad system on its new part.
Okay.
Good. All right. Oh, Tara, go right ahead.
Well, actually, my question might be for Lauren.
Okay, Lauren's up there. Lauren, she has, one of the commissioners has a question for you.
Yeah. It really is a question on the what comes next in terms of what are we approving in terms of materials. I know there are questions about the terracotta, but I have questions about the rain screen, and is that included in this, or is that next, or you're just presenting it to show the full?
Yeah, so what staff recommends is that the applicant, while this is concept, staff generally recommends that the applicant provide materiality as they can, so that way the commission gets a sense of what the design intention is. Otherwise, sometimes you just see a blank box, and that's really not helpful. So staff recommends that the applicant provide those details because they do impact the overall sense of massing and scale, et cetera. Staff is recommending that final details, which would include materials, be approved at the staff level. So the commission can decide to have final details be at commission level, but I do think it would be appropriate if the commissioners have questions about the materials now to ask them, given the staff recommendation for final to be at staff level, to help the commissioners feel more comfortable with those products.
Well, can I when is it appropriate to just make a comment?
You want to wait till when we talk as a group? Let's do it then. Because in the essence of time, I know we have some commissioners that have to leave for meetings. We have two people from the Upton community who would like to testify. So the first person that I would like to ask to come up is Savannah Wood.
Hi, everybody, from the Upton community, but also project sponsor for this. So my name is Savannah Wood. I'm Executive Director of Afro Charities. Thanks so much for hearing our project today. And I actually put Dr. Tony Draper down as number 2, so she can excuse herself if she wants to, but I thought she might want to make a comment. I wanted to just say that we're really excited about this project and give you a little bit more information about the programmatic details of what will be happening there. So Afro Charities was founded 60 years ago primarily to run Mrs. Santa and Afro Clean Block, which are 2 historic projects that were originally started with the Afro-American newspapers. Over the past 4 years, we've taken on management of the Afro's immense archival collection, which will be cited here at the Upton Mansion. One of the things that we're really excited about is that people will have access to this collection for basically the first time in a long time, all in one place. So all 130 years of this history is housed within this archive, including 3 million photographs, original audio recordings. There are, original letters between Thurgood Marshall and Carl Murphy. So there's just a wealth of information, not just about the Afro and not just about Baltimore, but really about all of the different places that the Afro has covered news, which has been all over the world for 130 years. So at this site will be the repository for that information, as well as a research center that people can come to actually handle these materials and see them. In addition to that, Afro Charities has been building out our programming more over the past several years, including a youth fellowship program where students in Baltimore City Public Schools are working with these materials and making new projects inspired by them. May 20th, we'll have an exhibition here in Baltimore with some of those students. We're also working on an archival fellowship program where young people will be able to digitize some of these materials with us. We're currently housed at the Maryland State Archives facility in Windsor Mill. So they have been a wonderful host to us, but we are really excited to move all of this back into the city proper and to make sure that people have access to this really important collection. So thank you again for hearing us out today. And would you like to say something, Dr. Draper? I did sign her up, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
How do you say no? I'm Frances Draper, CEO and publisher of the 130, almost 131-year-old Afro-American newspapers. We are the oldest Black-owned business in the entire state of Maryland. And little did my grandparents, my great-grandparents rather, know that 44, or 54 rather, get my math straight, 54 years after the Upton Mansion was built, that their legacy would actually go back into that building. And so it was built, as you all know, as a plantation. At once, it's a large site now, Lauren, you're right, but it was once on 10 acres. And now it's on 1 acre in the middle of a very challenging neighborhood. But we want to be the anchor for that neighborhood, to go back, to revitalize that beautiful neighborhood of Upton. We're looking forward to partnering with Afro Charities, with whom we already partner. So I just wanted to say thank you all so much. Thank you for the recommendation. And we are excited about bringing our staff and about creating new jobs in that space as well, and to continue to tell the news, not just of the African American community, but the news of Baltimore and beyond. So thank you.
Thank you. Lauren, can you send us back to our recommendation screen? Commissioners, it's now time for a conversation amongst ourselves. Before I read the recommendation, we do have some commissioners that want to share some information.
Sure. I'm looking at the addition, and, first of all, I don't even know which way to turn. So it's hard to say.
First of all, what? I didn't hear.
It's hard
I
to
didn't know which way to turn.
which way to turn. First of all, congratulations. Take the mic with me. No, I think the project is really exciting, and, I'm looking forward to actually seeing it. And one of the things that I do want to comment on is kind of the design of the addition. And I guess, Lauren, while I was asking the question about the next phase, is because I do feel that the addition, as shown, and I realize that CHAP staff might be looking at some different drawings, is a little bit busy to me. It's a little bit taking away from the historic building itself, which should stay the star. So I understand kind of the modern nature, but one of the things that I would say is sometimes less is more. So I don't know that you necessarily need the rain screens as faux windows. And we don't have benefit of the site plan or the landscape plan. But sometimes when you have that much of, kind of the brick, maybe there's a shrub or a tree or something that becomes a different kind of star and actually softens the building in a different way. So I would urge you, as you're moving forward with design, that everything doesn't have to be an attachment, or, sometimes the colors can recede, to your point, earlier. So I would urge you to go back in your next phase and really begin to look at those kind of fine details. I don't have a problem so much with the massing, but it really is about the details for me.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other commissioners? Oh, okay, go right ahead.
Yeah, so I'll jump off that. The massing and scale to me seem to be fit in line, providing the clarification about the floor heights and making sure that, the height is kind of shown as is reality. But I agree that I don't necessarily have a problem with a terracotta rain screen. I actually love a terracotta rain screen. But my concern would be about this addition being kind of the subservient to the historic addition. And I think that really, for the size of this addition, does come into kind of the materiality and the scale of the materials, because it's doubling the building's height, or square feet. You know, it's going to compete no matter what. And so the question is, how do you really massage that to make it recede a little bit? I already think the team's done a great job with kind of citing the addition and, you know, kind of those sight lines so that for most of the way around the mansion, you're really not going to perceive the addition. So good job there, team. But I would be concerned about when you're up next to it, you know, where does your eye go? And right now, it seems like it's a bit of a struggle. So that materiality isn't necessarily on the table today, but I would like to see those final decisions come back to the commission rather than just to staff would be my preference. Do you?
Okay, pal, you had a question. Oh.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
No, you.
I had similar comments. I think just the design of the addition, it just seems a little bit like it's trying to compete with the historic structure. I think there definitely could be some time spent to evolve that project, and that part of the project. And I think there's probably, the intention is there to do that. But certainly, I think, I mean, even with the archive being on that lower level, on that first level, and not having windows there, I think that's just a missed opportunity. I think generally speaking, if fenestration is done in a better way for the addition as well as the attachment of the two buildings, it will be a more minimal building. If they really embrace the fenestration of that addition, less is definitely more, and I agree with that as well. And probably consolidation of the architectural detailing of the building. Again, they're probably not there yet, but I think hopefully if they can consolidate the building and make it a bit more of a glass box, that's probably going to be more, more respectful to the existing building. My only concern, if you go back to the three-dimensional aerial, if you don't mind, Lauren. That's perfect. I feel like I agree with the elevator, sort of the elevator box, and even the attachment on that, I guess it's the third level, to the existing building. It just seems like it's something that we always want to avoid, right? To let the three-dimensional historic building kind of breathe a bit. So I really wish we don't attach the building in that way, where that whole side of that roof line is completely immersed into the addition. It just feels like it wants to be, even as an addition, still kind of reading of two separate buildings. And I think the fusing of that just doesn't seem to. It seems to contradict the hyphen idea, I guess, the architectural hyphen. If it's supposed to be an architectural hyphen, it should just be a glass box connecting the two boxes. And I think the elevator sort of structure is a bit of a missed opportunity. It just looks like a doghouse right now. So I think there should, massing wise, overall, I think it's probably in keeping with something that's not competing too much, but just in the architectural detailing and some of the detailing of some of the architectural sort of configuration, three-dimensional configuration is what I'm concerned about. So I would recommend probably approval of general massing, but I'd like to see the final design come back.
What you think? Gary, go right ahead.
Thank you. There it is. To the team, I would like to say congratulations. Dr. Draper, I know how long you have been working on this. I know that it's been a long road, and we really appreciate the fact that you struggled to find a location that respects the history and bring it back to its original place of being. I will leave the architectural redesigning to those who are much more prepared in that area. But I think that the staff work and your work together with your team has been outstanding. And I look forward to you continuing that work with the team and respecting their opinion and your work together and moving forward.
So I know we're getting close to the 3:30 hour. Peter, by all means. 2:30 hour, not 3:30.
Just a couple quick comments. I agree with Kapow's comments on the elevator tower. I think if there's some way to treat that hyphen a little bit better, I would like that. The massing I'm into. I think the terracotta panels are a neat idea. I would Dale, I know you mentioned the building nearby, but if you could maybe follow up with an email, I would like to just kind of see one in person. But I like keeping the color of the kind of brick color of the original building, but in a very contemporary material. The other thing that kind of jumped out to me were the multi-light windows that were placed a little bit closer to the mansion. I mean, I understand the idea of trying to jive a little bit with the older building, but I think it makes the addition a little bit more busy than it needs to be. So I would kind of recommend picking a glazing type for the addition and kind of stick with that throughout. The rain screens don't bother me. I kind of like getting a little articulation on the first floor. But overall, I think it's good, but I would like to see it come back with a few of those modifications made.
Go right ahead, Ben.
Yeah, congratulations on getting a competitive tax credit. That's always a big one. And I just want to add in the railings. I think that should be studied, whether the railing should be absorbed into the massing of the building. Them kind of showing up as a picket railing around the perimeter feels a little alien.
And thank you. Lauren, just to be clear, so will this be coming back to the commission for another review, or? I know, just hold on a second.
The staff's recommendation is final details to be reviewed and approved at staff level.
Okay, because the reason I asked that, I know we had two commissioners that asked if they could have it come back, so I want to clarify. I didn't know if that's a consensus.
We can modify the motion.
But I want to make sure if is that a consensus or not, or if the staff, of course, we have the recommendation from staff, or just to go back to staff. So I just want to make that clear for the record, okay? So commissioners, if there aren't any more comments, I'll read the recommendation. Staff recommends approval of the new rear addition with final details to be reviewed and approved at staff level. Staff also recommends that the commission require archaeological, monitoring of the excavation in areas that are currently paved, which will result in the submission of an additional report documenting the findings. Am I correct? Okay.
So moved.
Well,
No, we.
Hold on one second. Do we have any addendums? Eric, I'm gonna let you read any addendums that you.
I don't have any addendums because we didn't really do it, but I took some notes and said that, first idea was to change the color of the elevator penthouse, look at study the railing, study the fenestration on the first floor, consolidate, make it more simple, and it should be read as two separate buildings. So the connection between, those are some of the ideas I caught.
Gotcha.
Commissioner,
Yes, ma'am.
one of us can make a motion, and just to keep in mind that it's a mass scale height, so we don't really get into fenestration and materials responses for this, correct, Eric?
If you want to do concept approval of the new rear addition, which includes mass scale and height, boom, and the rest come back to full commission, it's fine.
But see,
That's not the recommendation.
Can
That's
I
not-
propose something that I think kind of threads?
hold on one second. That's not the recommendation. That's what you're suggesting that we.
No one has made a motion yet,
Right.
so.
And go right ahead, Ann.
I think that what I heard was I would make a motion that the height is approved and the building footprint is approved. And I think that the details and proportions and materiality all needs to be worked on, and will be coming back to full commission for design presentation.
The recommendation is on there is to go back to
I'm
staff. So we
giving
have-
you a motion.
Yeah, but we have to,
A different one.
That's my
we have
motion.
two motions now.
No one
We have to
made, no one made a motion to accept the staff recommendation.
Right.
I was trying.
Yes, that's right.
We were trying to finish discussing.
He made one.
Just
Yes, sir.
I just have a question. I mean, is it, I'm just thinking protocol. If someone does make a motion, don't you have to vote on that?
You have
And
to.
let it go through?
Yes.
And if it goes through, then it goes through. If it doesn't, then a new recommendation.
That's the correct
That's right.
Just
So,
kinda jumped
thank
the
you,
gun.
Kippa.
No,
just
the
thought
chair
No, I
laid out
think
the motion.
well, no.
Right.
He can't make a motion. He was reading the recommendation.
He read the recommendation, and I made the motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Point of order, What is the recommendation?
The recommendation is the first recommendation on the board. On the board.
No modification.
Do I have any opposed? Keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. 1, 2, 3. Eric's about to do, just look at the count. He's gonna do the count. And put their names up, hands up one more time.
No, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call out, Bullock.
Yes.
Good.
Nay.
Langmead.
Nay.
Leon.
Nay.
Mendeleev.
Aye.
Morrow.
Nay.
Powell.
Nay.
Power.
Nay.
Rodwell.
Aye.
Woods.
Nay.
All right, we have 3 4s and 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 nays.
So now, point of order, we can put a new motion on the table?
The answer is yes. The answer is yes.
Do you want to do it?
And you go ahead and make your comment that you mentioned for the new recommendation you'd like to include. Go right ahead.
So, approval of the rear addition, height, and footprint with details, proportion, materiality to come back for full design presentation to the full commission. And then the second sentence stays.
All right.
Second.
I didn't read it. I didn't read it. Didn't read it.
Let's move it.
Didn't read it.
Don't you have to have a motion first?
She did, she just made it.
Do you want me to read it?
Eric, would you read the motion for us?
It is approve the height and building footprint with details, proportion, and materiality to come back to full commission. And the commission require archaeological monitoring and of excavation in areas that are currently paved, which will result in the submission of an additional report documenting the findings.
Do I have a,
Still a second.
hold on. Who would like to put that motion first forward?
And made it.
And who would like to put the motion first forward? And please.
Ann Powell.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Do we have any opposed?
Opposed.
So we have Rodwell's against, who else? Okay.
Mendeleev, did you get?
Mendeleev, okay. So it passes. Okay.
The motion carries. All right. Next on our agenda, we have 1920 Utah Place, Bolton Hill Historic District, reconstruct, request construct new 3-story rear addition, owner income 1 LLC, applicant Cabal Architect LLC, staff is Lauren.
All right. Thank you, Chairman. Okay, rounding it out. Again, Commission, thank you for your patience. This is the location of the property in the Historic District. It actually abuts the Madison Park Historic District as well. This is the property outlined in red. 1920 Utah Place is located on the west side of Utah Place, a block and a half south of North Avenue. Bolton Hill retains a strong Victorian-era traditional row house character with relatively intact blocks of structures from the mid to late 19th century. And the residential community encompasses approximately 170 acres in the central northwest section of the city. This is the facade of the property. It's a 3-story row house with an elevated basement designed in a Victorian eclectic style that utilizes architectural language from several styles. The facade is brick with a rusticated brownstone basement level and brownstone windowsills and lintels. It has decorative pressed brick details, et cetera. It's a really, really handsome facade. When it was constructed in the late 1800s, the rear of the building was the full width of the lot and featured a 2-story oriel bay on the rear elevation. By 1914, the house had a 1-story rear L addition and a 2nd-story addition, both of which survive today. And you can sort of see the varied character, even going back to 1914, regarding the rear of this block. And you can see the property in this photo as well. This is a view from the rear alley, which is known as Morris Street. This is a side elevation of the property, and these are rear views from Morris Street and the rear yard. This is the second hearing regarding the proposal. The commission considered a request for a 3-story rear addition and basement egress windows on the facade at the November 9th, 2022 hearing. The commission disapproved the rear addition as proposed and disapproved the egress windows on the Utah Place facade. The commission approved a proposed roof deck on the rear and advised that the applicant consider revising the massing of the addition to better replicate the precedent in the neighborhood, and the applicants have revised their proposal in response to the commission's comments. The proposal is to demolish the rear 1-story L and 2nd-floor rear addition on this 8-unit multifamily row house and construct a large 3-story addition. These are the demolition plans for the basement and 1st floor, and the proposed construction plans for the same 2 floors. The addition would extend 51 feet from the main block of the building, and note that there are additions that were proposed for demolition. So extend 51 feet towards the rear of the lot from the main block of the building. The rear addition will extend 15 feet beyond the rear L of the adjacent property to the south. And the addition will be set back from the northern property line by 3 feet, creating a breezeway that is common in Baltimore row houses, which allows for the addition of windows both on the north elevation and then also on the rear of the main block. The rear addition will be clad in cementitious siding on the north and west elevations, and the south elevation, which is on a property line, will be clad with fire-rated stucco. The rear addition will have 1/1 aluminum-clad wood windows. The prior proposal had a three-story frame egress stair accessed from a rear frame porch with a rooftop deck accessed from the top level of the egress stair, as well as egress windows on the facade. Those features have been omitted from this revised proposal. Staff applied the design guidelines, which I will go through. Alterations and additions, staff finds that the proposed rear addition meets these guidelines. It's compatible with the existing building in massing, height, form, and scale, and is located on the rear of the building. The proposed addition is a simple construction that features a 3-foot step back from the northern property line, which visually relates to the typical patterns of rear Ls in the neighborhood. It will be distinguishable from the historic portion of the structure and does not replicate a historic style, so staff finds that it meets the guidelines. Again, staff finds that the proposal meets the guidelines for site design and also meets the design guidelines for scale and form. Regarding doors and windows, staff finds that the proposal meets the design guidelines, are compatible with, placement, scale, type, and operation of doors. Regarding materials, staff finds that the cementitious siding, which is hardy plank, is the proposed cladding for the north and west elevations of the rear addition. However, rear additions and Ls in Bolton Hill were historically masonry, not frame, and they're often stuccoed, like the adjacent properties. And so staff recommends that the addition be clad with a 3-part stucco instead of cementitious siding, as stucco is a more common treatment for cladding rear Ls and additions. The Bolton Hill Architectural Review Committee reviewed the revised proposal and provided favorable comments. Staff finds that the proposal largely complies with the CHAP guidelines and recommends that in order to more fully comply with the design guidelines, the addition should be clad with stucco instead of cementitious siding. And that is staff's recommendation. Recommend approval of the new rear addition with a recommendation to clad the addition in stucco instead of cementitious siding to better comply with the design guidelines. Thank you, commissioners. Any questions?
Okay. Lauren, thank you. Is the architect here? By all means. Please feel free to give us your full name.
Hello, I'm Adam Carballo Architecture. Thank you, Lauren, for the presentation. And thank you again for allowing us to come back to present this project. We've worked very closely with Lauren since November. As she mentioned in her presentation, we have actually reduced the scale of the building, provided that side setback on the side property line to allow for windows along that elevation, the north elevation. And we've also removed the exterior stair and roof deck to bring down the scale of the overall addition. Now I'm happy to report we've also updated our interior layout. Every single bedroom, every single living room has a window. And, as per, feedback we received last time. And we feel that this revised design is in keeping with CHAP guidelines and in keeping with the comments we received last time. And we hope that you can support this latest iteration of the project.
Thank you so much. You all have any questions for the architect? Okay, thank you, sir. And that was the only public testimony we have on file. So right now what we can do is have discussion amongst the commission. They would like to make a comment or talk. All right. Yes, sir. Yes, Peter.
I would move on the staff's recommendation of approval with the change to cementitious siding, or the stucco instead of cementitious siding.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do I have anyone who oppose? Any abstain? The ayes have it.
Man, y'all are good.
Wow. So do we have any old business? Bless you. Any old business? Any new business? Peter.
I was going to ask, it's kind of a selfish request, but is there any chance that we could set up a tour of Upton? I've never been, and I would very much like to go, and I'm thinking maybe another commissioners might be interested in that.
Lauren, is that a possibility? Of tour of Upton.
Of Upton? Yeah, I think we can coordinate that with DHCD.
Okay.
Yep.
Sounds good. Peter, thank you for the suggestion. Any old business,
the
any new
inside is
business, any announcements anyone like to make? Any announcements? Okay, I call this meeting to close at 2:43 p.m. Meeting is adjourned.